Hello everyone, it's me Clayton. I just finished watching Gillman, Teenage Kraken, starring Lana Condor, Toni Collette, Jane Fonda, Sam Richardson, and Annie Murphy. Now, when it comes to DreamWorks animation, they've certainly managed to have a string of some impressive hits recently, especially with one of last year's best overall movies with Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. And while Gillman doesn't exactly reach their heights when it comes to DreamWorks' excellence, it does make for a conventional, if rather entertaining movie about giant krakens and giant mermaids. But let's get to the story, shall we? The story revolves around a kraken named Ruby Gillman, played by Lana Condor, who goes to school near the ocean, but who's never allowed to go into the ocean so she doesn't discover her kraken lineage. But when she ends up having to save her boyfriend, her Connor, or at least her love interest Connor, she ends up she ends up discovering that the women in her family can turn into giant beasts, and that they're protectors of the oceans rather than sinkers of ships. And when a new girl comes to school, Chelsea, played by Annie Murphy, Ruby learns from her grandmother, played by Jane Fonda, that the Krakens and the mermaids fought each other in a big war, and that her mother, played by Toni Collette, actually had a trident hidden in the ocean that Chelsea wants to get so everyone can see it as a peace between the Krakens and the mermaids. But that's all I'll say about the story. The story does actually a pretty good job of mixing in the high school drama with the big superhero like battles between mermaids and krakens, even if the giant showdown really only occurs in the third act. It still has all of the typical conventions you'd see for animated films like this. Tons of montages set to pop songs. There's a lot of modern references, which might get a little annoying for people who don't like 2020's TikTok generation type of slang, but I personally didn't get tired of it. And there are some genuinely funny performances in the mix, such as Ruby's uncle, played by Sam Richardson, who actually might proves he can be funny in something after Velma. And there's Will Forte as this captain guy who's also gets a ton of laughs, because let's just face it, it's Will Forte. He's always great. But while this movie may have a very conventional story and its animation style can be a little off putting for some, I think the biggest problem with the movie is just the fact that for a movie that tries so hard to mock Disney's style of mermaids, it doesn't go as far with that material as I would have thought they would. I mean, Chelsea looks almost exactly like the original Ariel from the 1989 movie of The Little Mermaid, but not a lot is done with her to make her that much of a compelling antagonist or even that much of a jab at Disney. They could have gone with her having enchanting songs or her having a similar personality to Ariel, but it just sort of feels like a more of a superficial parody rather than one that could actually cut deep into the competition. But the story is focused where it should be, on Ruby and her family. And they're generally pretty entertaining, even if a lot of the modern type of humor feels like it's been done before. The animation highlights certainly do allow for a lot of spectacle, especially at the end, but it does feel like you just have to get through a lot of cliches in order to get there. And while there's definitely some great humor to be had here, there's also some that falls a bit flat. I wouldn't exactly consider this a must watch, but if you're looking for a movie from DreamWorks that happens to go for a more modern twist on The Little Mermaid and you didn't really like The Little Mermaid remake all that much, you could certainly do worse. That's why I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. See you next time.